Yeah, well, we're glad to be here, certainly. As the team that plays in, as we should say, as the at-large team, and then the play-in team. It's all there's a few extra steps for us to get here, so we're looking forward to the opportunity to play tomorrow night. Obviously, we're playing a familiar opponent as far as a conference team. We haven't seen them since January across the net, but we certainly are aware of BYU, and I know our guys are excited to get out there and get a chance to compete in this great environment. On the side note, I also want to make sure that I get the opportunity to thank the NCAA selection committee for selecting us. Also to the whole host organization here at Penn State, because they've done a tremendous job in anything and everything we've needed since we've been here. They've done a great job. I've been fortunate enough to do this a few times, and it's always amazing to see the difference at different places, and Penn State's just top notch. So thank you, and I know it's not easy. We've hosted at Long Beach State when we weren't in it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it's an amazing amount of character and professionalism that they've applied to the championships.
Coach Vinny Lopes here from Off the Block. What's the biggest difference between your team in January, February when you played BYU to now?
Well, I think early in the season, as we were trying to, kind of figure out who we were a little bit, and we have, I think it's been well documented. We have a lot of young guys on our team in January. I'm not sure they're young anymore. When you played 30 plus matches in your career, you're probably not a freshman anymore, like our core guys. But I think the overall growth, there's so many things that you learn about yourself individually and collectively throughout a season. We had a great schedule this year as far as playing our tough conference and playing a great out of conference. We were in Canada to play a really good University of Alberta team in January. When you travel that much, also you get pretty close as a team, and you develop the identity of that year's Long Beach State team. So I think we're a significantly different team. We've been through a lot of good. We've been through some long streaks of winning. We've been through some patches that we didn't like necessarily how we finished the matches. And we try to stress a lot to our guys. It's about applying the lessons learned throughout a course of a long season is why you play it. And the team that can apply those lessons learned and be able to play the game that they want to play at a tournament like this is the team that's going to be successful. So, yeah, we're a much different team than we were in January.
Coach Gordon Ruskill from the Center Daily Times. You mentioned that Penn State is hosting without it being in it. Are you worried about turnout and also the effect on just the attention on men's volleyball when you're not going to have a full house?
Well, I think that's always a little bit. We've been to a couple of championships where the host wasn't in it, and sometimes attendance is an issue, sometimes it wasn't. We're hoping that volleyball is such a big part of this community, both on the men's side and the women's side, that they'll come out to see good volleyball regardless. I know it's hard to be in it or not be in it, I'm sorry, and maybe support it from a passion side, but hopefully they'll appreciate just the overall volleyball and come out and watch, because these are some really good teams that are in this tournament. It should be some great volleyball.
Taylor, you look at BYU, good offensive team, especially Ben Patch. What do you guys have to do to prevent Ben Patch from having a big night against you guys?
I think we're more focused on us and how we handle how we play. We dig the ball a lot as a team, and I think if we can get back there, dig a few balls. Andrew Sato's been doing a great job of that. Kyle's been doing a great job of that, as well as everyone that's been playing the back row. We've been digging a lot of balls. If we can dig the ball, I think it's going to give us a chance.
Josh, TJ, what's been the biggest adjustment for you two transitioning from high school club volleyball to college volleyball in your first year?
The biggest thing is just the competition. Just like there's bigger players, and there's faster balls and stuff like that. So just getting used to the competitive ball.
Jay Drew, Salt Lake Tribune. Coach, when you played BYU in January, Ben Patch was pretty much a non-factor. Was that something you did, and can you do it again, or was it just an off night for him?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. You would love to say, hey, it was what we did, right? But I'm not 100% sure exactly what they were thinking. When teams are moving guys in and out early in the season, you're not sure exactly where it is. I certainly like some of the things we were able to do. I certainly believe that we can be successful in the things that we identify in our game plan. You know, Ben's a real good player. He's had a great year, and you know, like you'll hear any coach in any sport talk about, it's really hard to completely shut down a really good player. I think it's important for us to have a mindset that, yeah, we'd like to control him. We'd like to take some things away that are comfortable for him and stress him a little bit. That's part of the game plan. But, you know, BYU's far from the Ben Patch show. There's a lot of talent on that team, and if we were to just focus everything on just one guy, there's a lot of guys that can swing them out of it, like all 4 teams that are here. So I'm not quite sure if we can absolutely shut them down, I guess is the answer, but we'd like to slow them down.
On film, what have you seen? You've said both teams have played like 30 matches since then. What changes have you seen from BYU?
Well, you haven't. You know, that's one of the teams that's here that you haven't seen a lot of personnel changes from. You know, they've been real consistent with the group. They might make some subs here and there throughout through a match, but they go back to their starting lineup. They've had the same rotations for the better part of the entire season. So you know, teams evolve. Their offenses evolve. There's a few changes here and there, but you know, there's not a whole lot of difference. What it is I think, like anybody, like our team, is they've individually and collectively just gotten better. And their execution has gotten better throughout the season than it was in January, and I like to believe you know, Long Beach State side of the net is the same.
TJ, how important was it to come out here earlier in the year and play those 2 matches? Now you're going to be playing your 4th match in this gym. You guys, is that something that has made you feel very comfortable, and is it something you can parlay into good performance tomorrow night again?
Yeah, I definitely. It was a great thing to come out here early in the season and play a couple good teams out here, especially Penn State. You know, put up a challenge, and just to have that exposure to this court, and then the crowd and stuff was great. It really helped us to develop a type of comfortability in this gym and the different place, you know, the different environment to travel to. Especially the travel was a little bit longer than other trips we've been on, but I think we worked through it, and it definitely is going to help us to just calm down and just realize we've been here before in this gym, played matches, you know, against good teams, and it's just going to be another volleyball game.
Josh, you know, in every college sport, you always hear people talk about that freshman wall that sometimes freshmen hit late in the season. I want to ask you, did you ever experience any type of freshman wall or anything? And if not, what were you able to do to continue to be great on court?
Yeah, definitely, you know, hit a kind of a wall towards the end of the season, but teammates are great enough to, you know, help me through that. You know, our captain here, TG, he's been a big help in, you know, just keeping me in the game and keeping me in with the team and just, you know, constantly going.
And then, TJ, for you, you guys spent some time this summer, I know, playing or practicing with the U.S. men's national team game in that gym. What was the biggest thing you were able to take away from that experience?
Every day in practice that I would go in there, I'd come in with a learning mindset and just soak in anything that I could from those guys, because they are such great ambassadors of the game, especially for youth kids like me who just look up to them and want to be there someday. I just learned everything that I could, and it's a really mature game when it gets up there. It's all, you know, there's not too much emotion that they put besides celebrating the big points and stuff, and they just really focus on the next point, and that was one of the biggest things that I learned from that gym.
Yeah, so I have to ask, going into the first practice, who was your favorite player going into it, or was the player when you saw him you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm on the court with this guy?
Well, I mean, just the fact that I was in that gym in general was just like kind of a mind-blowing thing, but Reed Pretty has been a real good example for me, because I'm not the tallest outside out there, but then his passing is, you know, world class, and I really try to model after that. But I mean, just everyone on that team is just a great, you know, energy to be around and just kind of sap off of.
Coach, you know, kind of in that vein, you and John both have the perspective of having national connections to the national program. In kind of a broader picture, but what is your view of the state of the men's game, and is it still going in a strong direction that it has been for the last couple decades?
Yeah, I think men's volleyball's, you know, healthier now than it ever has been. I think we're getting growth at the grassroots level, and we're not seeing as much at the top, but we are seeing some. We went through a long period where we weren't seeing any at all. The addition of the D3 championships and the Conference Carolinas coming in, the expansion to 6 at our tournament, and hopefully with some things that can happen soon, maybe with some Big West Conference. Hopefully, volleyball would maybe spur some more growth up there. Maybe get to 8, and we're going in a good direction. And then overall, we're producing world-class volleyball players, which we're seeing at the top level right now. The national team is in a really healthy situation right now with some really good young players that have come through the college system, which are a product of the grassroots system that is set up by USA Volleyball. In other words, coming through the high performance program, coming through the youth and the junior national team. You're starting to see the real payoff at the end. Most of the players on the national team right now are a product of that pipeline. So I think a lot of work from a lot of people, whether it be through USA Volleyball, through the collegiate, because there's so many coaches on the collegiate side that are also part of USA Volleyball that are helping in the summers to grow this thing. It's incredibly impressive what we're able to do in men's volleyball when you think about we're one of the only teams that are in a world-class situation where we can medal at the Olympic Games that doesn't have this huge pool to pull from of younger players, and we definitely don't have our own pro league. So we have some drawbacks that we have to deal with, but that being said, I think we managed through it well, and I think it's going to be an exciting time in Rio for both the indoor teams and the beach teams for that matter.
How hard is it to grow the game collegiately when you don't have a powerful conference like Big Ten, Pac-12, groups like that?
Sure. No, there's no doubt that those are some of the things that have held us back, and there's some obvious reasons why it's hard for some men's sports to grow. But I do think there's some exciting times coming up. If the Big West is going to take on men's volleyball, we're going to have a NCAA conference take on men's volleyball. Hopefully, it'll give us a voice to the NCAA, and maybe it can spur some of the other big conferences to add men's volleyball. All in all, it's not a budget-breaking sport to add for an athletic department, and for a lot of schools, it's an opportunity that you could get into a national championship hunt fairly fast and fairly inexpensive in the eyes of a lot. We're comparing it to a lot of other sports. So I do think there's some opportunity for growth. I really do, and I think we're in some exciting times right now for men's volleyball.
Taylor, really quickly, I want to ask you about growing the game unless you want to add to it, but quick question for you. When you have so many freshmen coming into a team, we've seen at times some teams can tend to splinter and there be a divide between the younger players and the newer players. What were you able to do as team captain to prevent from there being that splintering on the team?
It's not necessarily just me. There's been a big effort by a lot of these guys, knowing that we have a lot of young guys coming in with a lot of talent. It was just kind of an all-out concerted effort to kind of come together and try to help these guys along as fast as we could in the fall, kind of get them into our system, and then really incorporate them in our team as much as possible. So there's not, for me personally, my goal is to just be around them, help them out with whatever they need, and just try to be a good teammate. But there's a lot that goes into it from a lot of guys on our team, a lot of the older guys, because we have a lot of them, but it was an all-out team effort to kind of get these guys, to represent the LB, and they've done a pretty good job so far, considering we're sitting right here.
All right, final question for me, I promise, but I know you guys are student athletes in addition to volleyball players. What's been your favorite class this semester?
Favorite class?
Yeah.
Composition too. Wonderful professor.
What about you, TJ?
Mine was probably theater. Get to dance around for an hour. It was nice.
For me, it's probably my upper division sports science class. I don't have too many classes since I've been here for so long.
Anyone else? Great. Taylor, Josh, TJ, Coach, thank you. And good luck.
Thank you guys.